All right. So if you're joining us, welcome, welcome. Settle down. We're about to begin. Okay. Okay. If you're here, share the link to others so they can join us. Share the live so that others can join us. All right. Hold on. Let me face the fan this way so that I stop sweating. All right. This is better. So, hi. Okay. Welcome, welcome, everybody. Why is this in your bed? You got injured? Okay. If you're just joining us, welcome. If you're just joining us, say I am here so that I will know if there are people here. We're about to begin. We already spent some time already, or wasted some time. Maybe it's appropriate to say we wasted it. We can begin immediately. Okay, it's clearer now. Okay, share the link to others so they can join. Tell them if they don't join, I'm going to delete it. I'm definitely going to delete the video because it looks like I don't know what happened. I don't know how I got this unlucky to get the most unserious people this time around. I won't even lie. Like compared to the other sets, this is the most unserious crop of students I have gotten. And you see, it makes sense now that I'm thinking of it. If we had insisted on charging what the prices would have been, I'm sure a lot of people would have taken it seriously. But because we reduced the price to make sure that everybody can afford it, and these people are not serious now. If you had paid 100,000 or 150,000, I'm sure you'd have taken these classes very seriously. All right. So let's just start immediately. All right. Please include it when you send it to them. Include that it's compulsory that they come on live. This is the last class this is the last class in January. So there's a possibility that all those who are this live, even if you come with your 2.5 to extend your classes, I'm not going to let you do that. I'm serious. I'm not going to let you do that because it's better we do not have people at all than for us to have people who will just make me come on the live and then I will not see them. It's highly disappointing to leave everything you're doing and run into this place despite the tight schedule to come on the live and then you don't see people. Let me see how many people are in that group. Let's see. 26 people. 26 people are on the group. And only one person is here. How does that make sense? It doesn't make sense to me. Okay, let's give them 2 more minutes or 1 minute. If we do not see them, If we will not see them, we'll just continue. And I'm going to have to delete the video after now. Bye. 30 seconds left. And yeah, it's time up. Let's begin. So, today we're going to talk about how to find your unique voice as a spoken word poet. And whenever I teach this class, I'm really humbled because I remember starting it or teaching wrongly. I started out teaching the wrong way. How did I start out teaching the wrong way? I used to I used to teach my students, especially the set of per word and samurai and who else and chemistry. You know those first set to 2014. I used to teach them, and whenever I do that, I will always teach them using my own poems. So I teach them one trying to sound like Grrraciano with the H factor. So a lot of people did not find it funny. They they called them out, insulted them. It was not a funny sight. Meanwhile, I couldn't even attend, so I didn't even know how it went. It was after the event I started seeing posts upon posts by different poets in the poetic community saying that they sounded like me. I did not like it at all. I did not like it. So I had to start doing my research on how to help poets find their unique voices. You know, how to teach poets to write better and still sound like their authentic selves. You know, I started doing that research, and since then, by God's grace, I have a lot of students who, if they don't tell you they're my students, you will not know. If they do not tell you that they are students of Grrraciano, you won't know. You know, so today I'm going to share the same lessons with you, and I hope it makes sense to you. Okay, someone tried to call me, and that was what affected the chat. If you can still hear me, say I can hear you. If you can hear me, say I can hear you. If you can hear me, say I can hear you. Say I can hear you in the comments if you can hear me. Yeah, good evening. Doing okay, you can hear me. How is your name pronounced? Please, who is this? Mention your real name, the name I know you by. All right, so let's continue then. Is this young man? Okay, so before we look at how I solved the problem. The problem I how I solved it was to do the opposite. Oh, Adedoyin, is that you? I did the opposite of what I used to do before. I used to tell poets to go and watch my videos. I send them links, you know, they watch my videos, and with that they learn. It worked, they learned, but the problem was they were sounding like me. So to solve that particular problem of them sounding like me, to help them find their unique voices, what I did was to expose them to a large array of performers. So I send them videos of different poets that are good equally, poets that have won slams, because that was how I used to judge a good poet. I used to judge a good poet by someone who has won several slams, not just one. So not a flash in the pan, but someone who has done it over and over again. Because after all, slam is the only place where poets and poems are judged. Do I have a witness? Okay, so that was what I did. I made sure that um, everyone who came across my classes, I would expose them to a large array of different performers. Then the next year, I took it a notch higher. What did I do? I started studying these styles, different styles that poets use, and I taught it to my students. So you not only get to see different poets perform and learn what they do. I'm going to even break it down for you to understand what they did. You understand? But before we even get into that, before we dissect these styles, I would like to tell you why many people will never find their unique voices. Why many people will always sound like someone. Not me, because I've exonerated myself. But the reason why you always sound like someone, the reasons, I'm going to mention them here. So I listed them, even though I can do this offhand, but I want to follow the sequence in which I wrote them here. So the imitating influences. All right. So like I told you, these guys, they had me as their teacher. So what they did was to follow exactly how I used to teach, and they followed my videos and they said something like me. So learning from someone is not the same as imitating them. All right. So you would have to learn how not to imitate them without sounding like them. Hello, butter. Without sounding like them. Right. So if you can hear me, say I can hear you. It's like we have a full house now. Say I can hear you if you can hear me. All right. So let's move on. So if you imitate if you imitate your teacher, if you imitate your influence, someone who influenced you to write, to perform, you most likely will have to sound like them. Except if you imitate a lot of people, if it's a crop of different imitations, then that will be different. But if you are imitating a particular person, there's a possibility that you would have to inadvertently start sounding like them. So imitating influence is one of them. Another one is fear of vulnerability. All right. So instead of saying, instead of saying, let me even use let me use narrative poems to explain. So instead of saying uh, like instead of using the personal pronoun I when you were raped and you want to do a poem on rape, instead of using the personal pronoun I, you start using he and she. You know, when you do that, what you have said is it's not me. Oh. So, in as much as that really does not pass as imitating someone you are copying from or you are learning from, doing that alone removes you from the picture. You understand? It removes you from the picture, and if you mistakenly have the same voice inflection, you know, the same face, what is it called, facial expression, and the same body language, basically, people will just attribute your performance to an imitation of the original. You think people don't watch videos? People watch videos. That same person you're copying, a lot of people have tried to copy them. A lot of people have tried to learn from them. So you shouldn't do that. Okay. So conformity to trends. We told you to follow trends. We didn't say you should conform to those trends. Okay. And by trends, I don't mean the message. I don't mean the news, because there's nothing wrong with doing that. What is wrong is when you see maybe poets saying, uh, I come from the dynasty of greats. You too, you've joined them. I come from the dynasty of greats. You are losing your voice. That's you. That's not you. I mean, that's you being someone else. All right. So don't follow them. Another trend that trended some time ago was numbers. Okay, I'm giving you those styles now. So you just jot them down. Jot them down to avoid them. Don't jot them down to copy them. So another style used to be one, wonders shall never end. Two, Tunde is an idiot. Tunde is an head nut. you know. Three, um, thrill me some more. Four, Four Square Gospel Church. Five, when they will just use a number and then use the number to do a word play and continue from there. So each number becomes a verse. You get it. Another one that trended was using the Nigerian. I'm talking about Nigerian poetry now. Using the Nigerian anthem to do poems. They go like, "Arise, O compatriots! What compatriots? Nigeria's call, obey. Who do I obey? Trust and obey. They just use these this popular stuff to just work. You understand? So if you follow those kind of trends, there's a possibility that a poem of yours will go viral, but then you have lost your voice. You have lost your unique voice, especially if that is what you continue to do. If it's not a one-off, if it's a one-off, maybe you did that to go viral to get a lot of followers so that you get some kind of social capital. That's fine. But then if you do that continually, it becomes your style. That is you not having a style. So if your style is based on what is trending only, not as regarding the news, not as regarding the content, you understand? But if you are doing that as regarding the style of writing, you don't have a style. All right. Those days they used to say that a football club does not have a particular style. The style that they have is not having a style. All right. So you don't want to be that. I don't want to mention the name of the club before it looks like I'm hitting on that club. Okay, so conformity to trend is one. Lack of self-exploration. Okay, so you do not you do not have a belief. That's not a poet. In fact, if you don't have anything you stand for, like someone said, a sage once said, if you don't stand for anything, you will fall for anything. Okay, if you don't have something you're passionate about, a topic that anytime they call you and say, talk about this, you'll be excited to talk about it, even for free, then there's a probability that you would definitely copy somebody else's style. Because the truth is, like I said earlier, what the sage said, he said, if you do not stand for anything, you will fall for anything. All right. So lack of self-exploration. You don't know what you cannot take and what you can take. It's just like marriage. They say you would have to first of all know yourself before you try to know someone else. You have to first love yourself before you love someone else, because you have to use yourself to learn how to love someone else. All right. So it's the same thing with poetry. You can't really marry poetry if you don't know yourself, because there has to be some kind of connection between you and your lines. Let people see a line and be like, a line, just one line from your poem, and be like, this sounds like what Grrraciano can write. This sounds like what Adedoyin can write. All right. This sounds like what Miracle can write or should write. So even when it comes to not just the themes, but when it comes to the style of writing, let people see that, oh, this is what this person will write. You understand? All right. So that's another one. Another reason is seeking external validation. When you're always seeking for external validation, I know of a parent who said that whenever his child draws a picture or any drawing that the child makes, and the child brings the picture to him and says, "Daddy, what do you think about this?" So he does not say, it looks stupid. He does not also say, it looks nice. He goes ahead to ask her again, "What do you think?" Or how do you feel about it? Look at it carefully. How do you feel about it? And the child will be like, It's okay." Say, "Yes, then it's okay for me too." So what he was trying to do, or what he achieved doing that, was to make the child feel like she was her own validator. So she was the one who was in charge of validating what was good and what was not so cool. You understand? So in as much as it is good to get feedback from other people, but you don't want to rely only on their feedback. You don't want to rely only on their feedback. Remember what I told you? I told you about what was that thing I told you? I told you not to. listen to those that do not matter to your art. All right. So even when you are seeking validation, there are some people whose opinions do not matter. Those who do not know where you are headed, they don't know a thing about you, you know, they just come and be like, I don't like them. So why don't you like them? They don't have a reason why they don't like what you do. They just don't like it. You know, so you have no business sending your poems to these people for validation. That someone is wealthy, it does not mean he or she knows what good poetry is. You know, someone can be wealthy from working in Shell. It does not mean that the person deserves the right to tell you how to write and how not to write. Do you understand? So, seeking validation will also make you lose your unique voice. Okay, especially if the kind of people you're asking. All right, so there's a difference between cynicism and criticism. Cynicism is someone hearing something or listening to something or having a taste of something and saying, I don't like it, but he or she does not know how to better it. You understand? Which whereas criticism is you first of all starting with the good part, because no matter how bad an artwork is, there must be something good about it. So you have to start with the good part, then move on to talking about what should be bettered, not the bad part. What should be bettered? What should be bettered? What should be bettered? All right. What should be made better? What should be refined to be better? Okay, and you have to know how to go about it. That's how you know that you're a critique. It's not someone that will say, I don't know, you just get as a day. I don't like them. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about you liking or not liking. All right, so another one is limited exposure to diverse influences. Remember what I told you? How I solved that problem was to expose them to different performers, different writers, and it worked. It worked. If you listen to Samurai do his poem now, it doesn't sound like me. People did not even know that. A lot of young folks do not know that Paul Ward was my student because it does not sound like me. Toby Abiodu does not sound like me. But these guys were people who went through my tutelage. Banko, I don't know whether he's still doing poetry, but it does not sound like me anymore. All right, so um, that's it. So you expose them to different varieties of poets, and that's what we are going to be doing today. I'm going to be showing you different poets that you should explore. So another one is when you overemphasize on performance. Okay, when you overemphasize on performance, the key word here is performance. You lose your voice. You lose your voice. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is, remember we are talking about voice. And remember I told you that a spoken word poet, the audience of a spoken word poet is what? Write it in the comments. Let me read. I want to be sure that I'm talking to people who are my students, not people that just stumbled on the live. All right. So the audience of a spoken word poem are what? They are what? Type it very fast. Okay, while you are still doing that, performance is not our thing. We are all called performance poets, but the truth is, spoken word poets are not really performance poets. We are spoken word poets, all right? It's possible for you to be able to do the two. It's possible for you to be able to do both spoken word and performance poetry. But when you're doing performance, you're doing performance. When you're doing spoken word, you're doing spoken word. For a spoken word poet, he or she focuses more on voice inflection and how to use his or her voice to send out that message. So you can easily pretend that everybody there is not seeing you and still pass the message. So when you're writing a performance, a spoken word poem, always have it in mind that your audience are just listening. They are not seeing you. Nobody cares to see you. So do not do any of those. It is important that you do that, but when you are writing, think of audience as those who are just listening. So the audience of a spoken word poem are what? Nobody has said anything. Am I talking to the right people? Am I talking to the right people? Okay, so those are the reasons why um, some of the poets or some of the poets that are not here, I don't believe anybody here will sound like someone else. will sound like someone else. All right. So, all right. So here to hearing. So we said they are ears that listen. Okay. Spoken word poets, their audience are ears that listen. For performance poets, they are eyes that watch. And then for page poets, they are eyes that read. So if you have that at the back of your mind while writing, you will know the kind of poetic devices to use. You will know the kind of style to use, basically. You can even form your own style knowing these things. All right. Next is that you need to know. All right, let's talk about. I've mentioned some styles. Were you here? Yes, there are ears that listen, there are, that hear. All right. Were you here when I spoke about the different styles? What are the different styles? There are people who go ahead to say things like there are people who go ahead to say things like one, numbers, numbering, two, and then the other one I told you using the anthem, and another one that where people say I come from the bloodline of greats. I come from the dynasty. I made a joke about it. Who saw it? Did you see the joke? I made a skit, a comedy skit about it, and it went a bit viral. Not really, really viral, but it made sense. So a lot of people laughed about it, but people were doing that. There was a time it was raining. In fact, some people sent me link of videos, and I shared some of them where people were sounding like that. Okay, so all right, so let's go ahead to talk about these other challenges that you will face or some other people will face while writing. So one, like we mentioned, authenticity, expressing genuine thoughts and emotions to create an authentic connection with the audience. So you want to know how to be authentic. I'm going to teach you how to do that. One, always pick always pick ideas from your personal experiences. Pick ideas and start by writing it as a prose work. You can start by writing as an article, as you gisting with your friend, and then changing it to a poem. All right. So do the same thing. You can even voice it. You can voice it. Use Otter, OTTR. I'm going to type it in the comments. Otter is an app, so you can use it. Voice. Do like you're gisting your friend. Guy, have fun now. Oh man, today no sweet at all. Today no jail. See what happened to me. You can voice it in Otter, go back and edit what you voiced. Let it be in that prose version, then change each line to a poem. If you do that, trust me, you will not only achieve a very nice poem that is authentically your voice, you would also get um, you would also get to you would notice that you have achieved writing a narrative poem. Okay, so when you write from your own personal experience, you end up writing what? A narrative piece. All right. So another challenge, another way to have a unique voice, like I told you, explore different people, different styles. Okay, expose yourself to different styles. Read a lot of books. Watch a lot of videos. You have YouTube. You can watch a lot of videos, and then, if possible, try to do a cover. So the way the person sounded, look at it and try to sound like yourself. Like do that same thing he said, or say that same words he said, but then in your own way. From both the wordings, the content, and your voice inflection. If you do that, you will see that you have started learning how to sound like yourself. You'll find your unique voice that way. Expose yourself to a wide array of poems. All right. Next is your word choice. Sorry. Is it word choice? Diction. Yeah, your diction. Your diction. Okay, so the more you read, I did not say you should write prose. I say you should start with prose. So write it as prose and then edit it to make it poem. make it a poem, I mean, you would find out that you are not sounding like anybody but yourself. So try to use the simplest ways, which is a way of conversing with your friend. Think of it like you're conversing with your friend and then change it to a poem. All right. Another way is to um, covers, like I said, write covers, write, what's the word? Not covers. I've forgotten the word, but it's you doing a version, your own version of somebody else's poem. All right, your own version of somebody else's poem. So you see a popular poet doing his stuff, you do your own version of the poem. I don't know whether you've seen these trends on TikTok where someone will say, if I had a verse in um Davido's Twe, you see them say something like that, and you see them do the same kind of song, but with their own version of that same song, and they would it would be very nice. You go and check them out. Check them on TikTok, check them on YouTube Reels, YouTube Shorts, and Reels on Facebook. You are going to see some of those content. Let it inspire you to try to do your own version of other people's poems. You will see that you'll be able to find your voice like that. You'll be able to find your voice like that. All right. So these are the ways you can do that. So here are the challenges that most writers will face: authenticity, like I mentioned, rhythm and flow. Okay, so for rhythm, I mentioned in Spoken Poetry 101, but I'm going to explain it better here. For rhythm, how you can enjoy or how you can get to have rhythm, cadence. It's called rhythm or cadence. Okay, rhythm or cadence. How you can get that is to either you measure it with the meter, meter, or if you are using English, this is spelling. You measure it with meter, or you do it my way, which is the simplest way. When I was little, when I was younger, there was this game we used to play. We used to play this game where an adult will cheat us, will do us wayo, will do us ojoro. They will be like, I have um, four fingers. I will say, no, it's not true. You have one, two, three, four, five. They'll say, no, it's four. You did not count it well. Then you will now go, oh yeah, count it. They will now say, my fingers are one, two, three, four. You see what I just did? One, two, three, four. So what did you notice? Does it mean I have four fingers? I'm waiting for your comment. Does it mean I have four fingers? So what happened was the person used three to count two of these fingers. So one, two, three, four. So it's the same way I got the rules of having rhythm. And trust me, if you can do this, if you can get this correctly, writing songs will not be so difficult for you. You'll be able to write songs easily. All right. So one, two, three, four was the ideology we used. This guy will not let me rest. Butter, I go and play. Sit, sit down. Good. Don't disturb Sagraciano. We're working. Okay. So yeah, meter. So you count. Do you know what syllables are called? What syllables are, I mean? Sorry about the caps. Butter was the one that pressed the caps lock. Who knows what syllables are? If you know what syllables are, just say yes, I know. I won't tell you to explain it or to define it. People don't like questions, do you? Okay, you do. All right. So, all right. So, syllables are the number of stops within a sentence or a word. the number of stops. All right. For instance, education, education, education. It has four syllables. Education has four syllables, right? How many syllables does disappointment has? Disappointment. How many syllables does that word that I just typed have? Four. Is it correct? Adedoyin, is that answer correct? Disappointment, is it four syllables it has? I feel really sleepy. Come on, anybody answer now. Is it correct? Disappointment. Is it five? Disappointment. How is it five? Say it loud. You'd have to say it loud. How many stops? How many stops did you notice when pronouncing the word? This is not supposed to take all our time. I just want to make sure that you got it right so that I don't just waste my time reading out knowledge and then nobody's following. Six. All right, explain how it is six. Break it down. Like break it in bits. Okay, let me use education to explain what I mean by break it. Education. Okay, that's for education. Okay, so education has four syllables, and I just broke it. Break disappointment into six or five. Let me see. Let me see how you broke yours. Gladyn, are you sure? Oh yeah, break it now. Break disappointment. Let me see if it is four syllables. I wish this was I wish this was WhatsApp so you would have pronounced it. Let me hear how you got six syllables. D sa point men. How? Let me give you a clue. Always use the consonant sounds to count your stops. You can't be counting your stops with a consonant sound that is close to another consonant sound. You understand? So always use consonant sound to count your stops. All right. So um Adedoyin, Adedoyin, it is four syllables. All right. So but let me give you another one. So you solve this one for us. It is not mathematics, but solve it. Um Chromosome. Let me use something longer. Photosynthesis. Right. So how many syllables does photosynthesis have? We're not supposed to waste time on this. So don't answer. Only Adedoyin, please. Adedoyin, answer. I want to make sure she gets this before we go on. No, photosynthesis. How many syllables? We've moved on from disappointment. Yes, this is not where we are headed, though. This is what we want to use to teach something else. This is not the main thing. So we are not supposed to be wasting time here. Are they doing? I'm waiting for you. We are waiting for you. Correct. Photosynthesis. So how many syllables? Are they doing? Save our time now. How many syllables? You already divided it. Just number. Give a number to that. I don't know why it's taking this long. Is it the network? Is there a lag? Am I lagging? We have a lot to cover, and we just have a little below 30 minutes. Five. Correct. Correct. Is she correct? If she's correct, just say correct. If you have a diverging opinion, let us know so that will help you too. Correct. Correct. Uche, you're here finally. All right. So let's move on. Like I told you, this is not the end. This is a means to where we are headed. So now that you know what syllables are, remember what I told you? One, two, three, four. Using three to cancel two fingers, making it look like the five fingers have four fingers. Have that at the back of your mind while we are talking about syllables. Now, what I did, the rule, the rule I use to get my work to have this rhythm is what I call plus two minus two. Plus two, excuse me, plus two, uh, minus two. So plus two, meaning that if the first line, if the first line has 10 syllables, the preceding line shouldn't or should have at most 10 plus 2. You know, I'm writing this so that you can remember it. Or 10 minus 2. So please read and tell me if you understand what I just wrote, what I just typed. I'm going to read it out. As if the first line of a poem, out of a poem in your head, if the first line of a poem has 10 syllables, the preceding lines, that's the line after it, should have at most 10 plus 2 syllables, that's 12 syllables, or 10 minus 2 syllables, that's 8 syllables. Does this make sense? Again, this is also not an end, it's a means to where we are headed. I'm just giving you the rule of how to rhyme my way. Okay, it makes sense. Okay, good. If it makes sense, just say makes sense. Doing every other person, food and fables, gladding. Okay, so if you understand it, just say what's the word I say you should say, Seth? Just say it. Makes sense. Okay, good. Say makes sense if you understand it. And I'll tell you why. So with this very makes sense, good. So with this very strategy or technique, you can write songs, you can write rap lines, and it will make bad sense. You say you'll be shocked. Have you written something and you look at it and say, I try? That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. So if you can use this, you will not feel any rule, so long as rhythm is concerned. All right. So 10, sorry, plus 2 minus 2, all right, syllabic count is what you should be using if you cannot master meter, if you cannot master how to have your rhythm or your cadence the way the olden days writers used to do. All right, it was too difficult for me, so I just had to figure out a way, and I had to go back to my childhood to pick something with which it works. It works. I've written a lot of songs. I don't need. Do I need to tell you? I've written a lot of songs for top artists. I've written a lot of lyrics for rappers, top rappers. So I do this. I've also written songs for myself. All right. So I write songs like this very easily. This is what I use. This is what I use. And it is even going to benefit you more if you don't have the the instrumental already. If you have the instrumental, you might not need this because you'll just be doing your and writing. All right. But if you do not have any instrumental, you're just writing it as a poem first for you to give it to someone to sing or to sing it later. After you have found some instrument, then you should use this. You will never get it wrong. So if the first verse, if the first line has maybe 12 syllables, so if okay, let me ask this question: if the first line has 15 syllables, so what should the second one have? What is the most it should have, and what is the least it should have? 15 syllables, first line. Second line, what? I want to be sure you're following. Why? I know you already know that it's for us to have rhythm, right? But I want to answer you in another way because I've not even used a bit of shaker. I've not used my video shaker. Just type Y. Awesome, awesome. Okay. Okay, so the reason is because I want you to use that 1, 2, 3, 4 strategy. So if the line that is longer is, for instance, 17 syllables, not words. So the mistake most people make is that they go and count words, not words. Don't count words. You will get it totally wrong. You will never rhyme. You will never have rhythm like that. Not words. So you are supposed to be counting words, syllables. So if the first line have 17 syllables and the next line maybe has 13 syllables, what are you supposed to do while performing or while owning your poem? So the right way to perform that line is that you would have to rush the longer line and slow down the shorter line. So if, for instance, the first line has 17 syllables, like I mentioned, and the next line has 13, remember, you did not just, is not equal to 15. It's not even 15. Do you understand? It is not 15 now. It is now minus 2 of the 7. It's now 14. So you would have to do what? Not only will you rush the first line, you would have to do what? You have to slow down when you're doing the next line. So, but if it is just two apart, you might just want to do, either you say the first line in your normal pace, and then I don't want to be too fast and lose you, okay? What we are saying is very important. Some of you are going to still be writing rubbish. You'll be writing nonsense poem. One is long. Then the next line is da 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 da. I don't know how that will make sense, especially if you want to perform it with some musical instrumentations. Okay. All right. All right. So, so do you understand rhythm now? Do you understand cadence? If I tell you to write a poem that has cadence, will it be difficult for you? Will it be difficult for you? If it is difficult for you, say yes, and I'm going to explain further. You have to tell me why it will be difficult for you. But if it's not going to be difficult, say no, sir. Awesome, awesome. So we have dealt with rhythm or cadence and flow. All right. Next is I want to talk to you about what's that word? Tempo. Not tempo, not tempo run. I want to talk to you about tempo. So everybody has their own, his or her own comfortable tempo, comfortable pace. Tempo is the speed with which you say a line. All right. So everybody has his or her own tempo, comfortable tempo. For stammerers like me, our tempo is usually really fast. So most times when I do my poems, people are like, "Ah, I like the way you are fast." They don't know that that was me being me. That was me fighting or struggling to make sense. Because if we really go the way it's in our head, a lot of people are going to be like, "What did you just say?" So first of all, you would have to, if your tempo is fast like me, you would have to learn how to articulate each word. Don't be like a child who was asked his or her name. You know how children are so used to their names, and when you ask them their name, they'll be like, "Listen, what is your name?" Yes. So they are used to it. So they want to say blessing, but they do not pronounce the words articulately. Okay, so always focus on the stops. If you're saying, no matter how fast you are, right? If you can just hit the stops, if you can, remember we just talked about syllables. If you can hit the stops, if you can hit the consonant sounds, no matter how fast you are, people are still going to get what you're saying. Do you understand? Okay, so that is on a general note, but I want to talk to you about your own tempo. So when it comes to lines that have sound devices, you're supposed to say them fast because the beauty of sound devices is that you're saying them fast. How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? See, a woodchuck would chuck as much wood as a woodchuck could chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood. Yes, yes. So, but most people are going to be hearing Chuck 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 Norris. Okay, so the beauty is that you said it fast. It will now be beautiful, even more beautiful